When it comes to delivering a great yoga class, you already own your greatest asset, and it's not those cute new leggings you bought. I'm sure they're fabulous. It is your voice, and I'm going to share some of my favorite tips today on how to use your voice appropriately in order to execute and deliver a great yoga class and feel confident doing so. This is video two of a three-part series on using your voice, and this one is all about environmental factors. I'm Jennifer Sack, and I'm a seasoned yogi. And I love offering resources for other instructors to help them really lean into their most aligned and authentic self on and off the mat. And today we are all about on the mat and delivering that great class using your voice. Now, in the previous episode of this, the first episode of the series, I spoke about the mechanics of your voice. So if you did not catch that video, I highly encourage you to go back and watch it after this one and really make sure you're grasping all of those points because they're going to help you so much. It's like the foundation of using your voice appropriately. And this is really just moving into considering your environment, where you are, and all the things that come into play there. Because I'll tell you, I have definitely taught in some weird places before and some very common ones, but things that have challenging factors that can really disrupt or enhance the quality of your students being able to hear you appropriately. And this also comes down to music. So I'll pull music into this one as well. Not everybody uses music when they teach, and that's okay. But there's definitely some sound things to consider, especially in different environments, as well as considering how to utilize your voice appropriately. So, we're going to go over five main points or topics in the realm of environmental factors. And the first one to consider is your venue, where you're at. Like I said, I have taught in some strange places. I taught in the front of a movie theater once, strangely enough. And then, a beach, which is not it's not uncommon to teach on a beach, right? People do things like that all the time, but there's definitely some factors that come into play that you need to be aware of. I've taught in people's houses in their kitchen. I've been in big studios, small studios, gyms, large rooms, lots of noise. So there's a lot going on depending on where you're teaching. So indoors versus outdoors is kind of how we'll break that one down first off. And indoors, let's talk about that. Be aware of the size of the room that you're in. If it's smaller, sound is going to reverb. So this seems obvious, but sometimes we just kind of go into autopilot and we don't consider this. And we're maybe more loud and grandiose than we would normally be, or that would be appropriate in a larger size room. And it can be a little like people will feel it. It's a vibration, it's bouncing off a wall or a low ceiling if there is one. That is low, and they're going to feel that in their body. So, yes, audibly, maybe they hear it fine, but it's a little jarring to their nervous system. Same with your music. A lot of bass in a small space, that rhymed, is going to be like to the nervous system. So, just be considerate. If you've got really high ceilings in a large space, you've got to be able to sort of fill that space with your voice. Now, it does depend on how many people you're teaching to. If you are in a very large space, but you're doing a one-on-one with someone, you're up close with them, most likely they're going to be able to hear you. But if you have a large venue of people that you need to project your voice amongst, you need to really, like I said in the first video, use the mechanics of your diaphragm to get that voice up and out far and be very aware of casting your voice out to the crowd. Okay. So think about it. How many people are you teaching to? Is this a large group? How big is the room that you are in? And you're going to dial up or dial down your sound, your sort of casting of your voice, your volume, also the volume of your music, and play with that bass if you need to, because you don't want to have any too much reverb happening there, and you don't want sound to get carried away. Um, Also, be aware of the placement of your music if you are using it. If you have it directly behind you, say you're at the front of a classroom, and the music is behind you directly, it's going to be competing and sort of overpowering you, most likely. So just offset it a little to the side And I wouldn't have it in the back of the room while you're in the front of the room. The people in the back of the room will just hear the music. They will have a very hard time hearing you. And the people in the front of the room will hear you fine, might not hear so much of the music. You want to marry your voice and the music together, but don't have it behind you for that competition. Allow it to be more just off to the side of you. Some places have overhead speakers, and that's fine too. Just be aware that's very overpowering. So keep the volume a notch lower if that sound is coming from above because you've got to push out, it's pushing down. It will overpower you for sure if you're not careful. Let's talk next about environmental factors such as the noise in your space. Once, for many years, I taught in a gym setting. There was a lot of noise above and around. There were weights clanging around. There was an upstairs where you could hear people dropping weights, or I don't know what they were doing up there that was so loud, but there was a lot of competition of noise, and it wasn't always ideal. It wasn't like being in a studio, although I do have a studio story where it's a little more of a zen place to be. There was a lot to compete with. So what this truly meant was one, I didn't allow those noises to throw me off. So I kept going even when they happened. Every now and then, if there was a large thud, we'd like acknowledge it because we'd jump. I'd acknowledge it and be like, whoa, they're really working hard up there, and then keep going. I would just keep that flow going regardless. You got to know there's going to be noise around, but don't let it hang you up. Know your environment. So I've also been in a studio, which you would think is a very zen place. The studio itself was, waterfalls, just zen everywhere, zen background music, silent spaces next to sharing a wall with a tattoo parlor. So they're beatboxing, they've got their music blasting, they're up there hooting and hollering, having a good time in the tattoo parlor. And we're over here trying to meditate or do some visualization or breath work in Shavasana, and that's all we can hear. So sometimes you just have to work with what the space you're in is. And really, that comes down to making sure that you can be heard over whatever is going on. Street noise is a big one. If you're in a busy city, you might be in a building, but through that window, there's a lot of cars, people going by on their bike, honking, people shouting. It can be noisy. And the idea is to keep your clients, your students with you. So yeah, things happen out there. As soon as something happens out there, talk to them. It's going to draw them right back to you, right back to what's happening. Cue them in something right away, because otherwise they're going to get lost in people watching or trying to figure out what song is playing next door or caught up in some narrative or thought form in their mind. So when those things happen, just give a cue, bring them right back to you, right back into their bodies. You want to kind of keep their attention centered. So that's something that happens that you have to kind of work with. It really does. If you're outdoors, there might be wind. Wind is a huge carrier of sound. So your voice just whoops right away with it. So if you're near an ocean, water, of any sort, streams, what have you, waterfall, yikes, loud, or just it's windy. It's very windy, then you're going to have to compete. If you're outside and there are a lot of those factors going on and it's a larger group, you might want to consider a mic and speaker situation. That can be tricky, and I know we don't all love messing with tech. It can still get carried away from the speaker itself, but you save your voice a bit because you're not going to have to project as much and for as long because you're not going to strain your vocal cords, basically, is my point there. If you do have the mic and speaker set up, you do have to contend with some factors still, but it will help you. So consider that. Think about the noise in your space. Think about the things that are around you, which brings me to my third point. Do your freaking research, because if you are not used to the space that you're showing up, say you're just like subbing for a class, or you decided to put on some great event, or maybe you've been asked to do an event somewhere, go to that space and get a feel for it. Go to that space at the time of day and the day of the week that you wouldn't be teaching that if you have enough advance notice to do so. So there have been times where I've gone to plan an event not knowing that at the very same time and day there is like a farmer's market or a community group or some sort of thing happening around at the same time. Now, sure, might be great for exposure and for promoting your event or your if it's a weekly class or something. If people at a farmer's market notice, hey, there's yoga going on over here. You're trying to do a sound bath at the end of Shavasana, or if that's even the whole content of the class, you're screwed. It's not going to go over well. People are not going to be able to tune in and listen to you, concentrate, and really get inside and, do what they're there to do if there's a ton of distraction around them. We're humans, so we're very easily distracted and curious by nature. So when we hear people pipe up or something over there, we're looking, we're listening. We're not in our bodies. We're not doing what we came to yoga to do, which was to get inside ourselves, to get out of our head, into our body, be with our breath, clear the mind, de-stress. So just be very aware. Do your research. Go to places ahead of time. And I suggest that even before taking an ongoing class or even just a one-time event, to just really go and get a feel for the energy of the space and know what you're going to have to contend with when it comes to sound and the type of class that you put on. Now, if you have a bump in power flow class and you've got music going and it's energetic and loud, a lot of these things might not matter. They might not. But if you are teaching restorative or a lot of meditation or sound bath, things of that nature, yin, something where you're very calm, you need to have more silence, more introspection, more just less noise, this might not be the venue for you. Okay. Maybe it's just a time of day. You didn't realize there's another something happening at that time of day that week. So please do your research. It's going to help you out. And this might not be for your voice, but it's going to help you because you're going to know what you're contending with and how you're going to have to use your voice and the sound in your environment. Okay, so fourth thing when it comes to using your voice and delivering and executing a great yoga class is to consider your positioning all of the time. So you want to talk out to the crowd, to the group, to the person. And that means if you're down in a downward dog and your face is down at your mat, they're not going to be able to hear you very well. Now, that doesn't mean you can't say something in your downward dog. You just need to be louder, a lot louder. I wouldn't suggest, depending on your neck and how tight your neck and shoulders can get, turning your head in a downward dog to face the room while you talk. If you don't have neck issues, that might not bother you. I have neck issues and I am liable to pull something if I'm in a down dog and I turn my head and I'm trying to talk outward. So that doesn't really work for me. So what I've learned is that I either gotta turn up the volume, project even louder, or I get them in the pose, I demonstrate it. I'm in a downward dog, I'm showing them what to do. I'll say, stay here while I chat with you, and I'll come down onto a kneeling position and continue to cue them, facing them while I've already told them, stay here, stay in your down dog. Because the second there's those visual people out there, the second they see you move out of the pose, they're going to follow you and do it too. And you're like, I meant for you to stay there. I just need you to hear me. And then it gets all weird and awkward when they have to get back into the pose and they're like, oh, then now they're embarrassed. So, notice where your positioning is, where your voice is projected at the direction, because you always want it out towards them. And if you do need to come out of the pose in order to do that, tell them to stay in the pose, that you're just going to chat with them. It makes them super comfortable because they understand what's going on now. All right. Also, this brings me up to something that seems like such a rookie move, but I still see it happening when I go to classes. So I think it's worth mentioning. You know how you're at the top of your mat and you do a whole series of standing poses, maybe like, warrior two, some exalted warrior, extended, and then down to some triangle or something. You're facing them for a whole side. And then you move through your vinyasa, perhaps, and you go to do the other side. And now you're facing not them. They're behind you. You're either facing a mirror or a wall, or if you're outside, just another direction. They can't hear you. You're not even talking at them anymore. You've got to learn to work the other side of your mat. So if you started on one side and that whole side was open and facing them while you're talking, go to what is now essentially the back of your mat. Pretend like it's the front and do the whole series on the other side, still facing them. Now they might get confused if they see you walking towards the back of your mat, they people just follow. It's like monkey see, monkey do. So talk it out when you're doing it. Sometimes just say, "You stay where you are. I'm moving over here so you can hear me." And they're just like, "Oh, okay." Um, they'll get used to you if they come to you often to you doing that. So you won't have to maybe always say that. They'll like pick up on the fact that you're just changing position so they can hear you. But I tell you time and time again, I've moved on my mat to accomplish this, and people start going with me, and I'm like, stay where you are. So just say it ahead of time. Let them know what you're up to. It's going to help them feel more comfortable, and like you're just kind of all there together, and they're not just lost in the weeds. Um, and they're going to be able to hear you. Also, if you're walking around and you're helping people with their alignment, whatever have you, make sure if you're with somebody. Okay, here's a good tip. You need to give them a certain cue. Lower your voice while you're talking to them because not everybody needs to hear that cue. And to be that student that has you shouting that cue to the whole room, knowing that they're the one that needed the adjustment, can be a little embarrassing for them. So if it's something that just, yes, most cues are helpful for everybody, but then give that in a general tone. Everybody, whatever, widen your feet a foot or something, whatever it is. But if one person is doing something that might injure themselves and you just need to check in with them, just lightly go up, lower your voice and say, hey, please roll your shoulders outward there. It's going to help you out a lot. It's going to free up your neck. And then get back up and start talking in your normal voice. Not everybody needs to know what was going on. You can, now, if you don't want to single anybody out, you can just make it a general cue. So in that case, you'd say, hey, if you feel any tightness in your neck or shoulders, make sure that you're rolling your shoulder blades outward from the spine. You're going to feel some loosening of the grip there and hope you're just crossing your fingers the right person heard you talking to them. 8 times out of 10, they're not aware it's them and they don't do it. And you're like, man, I just gave the whole class a cue that really I just wanted for that one person. So don't be afraid to give some instruction to a singular person, but be very discreet about it. Don't make it a big deal so that everybody can hear. But when you are walking around, if you are adjusting people, you have to look down a bit to do that. Sometimes I'm not a big fan of hands-on adjustments. Personally, I just don't like invading other space and I don't like when others invade my space. So I'm bigger on mirroring. So getting in front of them and showing them mirror style, roll your shoulder back. You know, they'll see it and they'll do it, monkey see, monkey do. Rather than you just manhandling them now they've got uncomfortable and they don't know what you really want. That's a whole nother series on adjusting and helping your students. But as you are helping someone else, you have the tendency to look down and your voice will go that direction. Try and look down for a moment so you know what you're doing, and then lift your chin and speak again to the room as you're cueing them. You're going to have to just know where you are and what you're doing enough and have enough practice, excuse me, with that so that you're not cueing the whole class while practically yelling at the person that you're helping, okay? So just make sure you're aware of your positioning at all times. If you're walking around, turn towards the center with your mouth, your face, so that you're always projecting your voice at them, not up, not behind, not out to the sides, and not down at your student. Be very aware of that and use a lowered tone if you need to be discreet to someone, and then amplify it back up when it's time to speak to the entire class. Okay. Fifth thing, thanks for sticking with me because we got so much ground to cover here. This is why I split it up into 3 videos. Fifth thing is you need to know your audience. Some are hearing impaired. Never assume, never assume. Some will tell you. Some will always go to one side of the room, and then later, maybe a year later, you find out, oh, well, they have they're deaf in one ear and they can only hear from that side. Sometimes they don't tell you, but it's really great that if you do know your students have some trouble hearing, to have them move to the front of the class, to make sure you're making eye contact and speaking with them clearly, because somehow that helps them. Maybe they're used to reading lips a little bit better. So, really allowing that connection to happen so that they're able to understand you better. Um, a lot of times, what I will do is just say, "Hey, raise your hand if you can hear me." Or because you don't want to draw attention so much to the people who can't hear you, maybe like that might make them feel bad. So, rather than like, if you can't hear me, raise your hand, because then they're like, oh, I can't hear, I feel bad. Raise your hand if you can hear me. There's a good one too. If they can't hear you, they didn't hear what you just said, they're not going to raise their so you have a pretty good indication of who's a little harder of hearing. All right, so I hope that was super helpful for you. Let's just review the 5 points, things to consider when you are using your voice in your yoga class, delivering this amazing class. You need to make sure you are aware of your venue, size, and placement, where you're at. Is it indoor, outdoor? Is it a big space, small space, high ceilings, low ceilings, small group, one person, big group? Consider all of those things and how you're using your voice, how much you have to project, and also be aware of those environmental factors, where you're at, the things that go on around you, things that might carry your voice away, that might drown you out, might distract. Always being aware of that so that you can keep drawing the students back to you. Make sure that you're not competing with noise too much, and that you are using appropriate microphones and speakers if you need to. Always do your research. Make sure you know where you're at, what time of day, the day of the week, the things that go on in and around that environment. Very helpful to know that and not get surprised by something that could totally throw off a class. I just remember one time being in a class where we're all in Shavasana in a sound bath and a parade went by. A parade. Not ideal. Do your research, people. And then also, your positioning is so important. Know where your voice is being projected. Don't project it at the mat. Don't turn your back to them. If you're cueing or you're up close with someone, maybe you need to tone down your volume. Maybe you need to keep your chin up and project to the class. Always being aware of where you're throwing your voice. And then finally, know your audience. Know if some of them need a little extra eye contact, need you to project a little more when you're speaking to them. If there's a positioning on where they are situated in reference to you that would be more helpful, maybe they need to move up or side to side. Perhaps the music is too loud for them in the front and they prefer to be in the back so that they can kind of not be bothered by that. A lot of things go in, and ask them, can you hear me? Is the volume okay? Communicate with them. These can all be adjusted. You have to communicate. You don't want someone eking their way through class and then finding out at the very end it was a bad experience because they just felt intimidated to speak up. They didn't want to disrupt. They felt bad. So communicate with your class throughout, just to make sure that you're adjusting either the music volume, your voice volume, to make sure that they are getting the best out of it because you care, because you want them. It shows you care. It shows that it's important. And it is important that they can hear all of your instruction and feel safe and feel taken care of in your space. All right, my friends. So, as I said, I love offering free resources to help you guys really move into your most aligned self on and off the mat. This is one of those ways, just by offering these episodes to help you hopefully enhance your teaching a bit. I also have a free resource. Link is in the description. It's Align Your Life with Your Teachings. It's a free PDF just to help you check in with many areas of your life and see how you're showing up. Is how you're showing up on and off the mat in congruence? Are you aligned? Or there's some places you need to tweak and make sure that you do come into a better alignment so that you feel that connectivity, you feel authentic, you don't feel like that Zen imposter putting on a mask going out there and instructing and leading when truly you're a bit of mess in your own life. We want all of that to come together to feel whole, and we want to be able to share that with others and be the light to show them how to do the same authentically and honestly, right? So grab that free PDF, from the description. And make sure if you didn't watch first video on mechanics of your voice, go back and watch it now and tune in for the third videos of the series here that is going to be all about continuity and flow, keeping that flow going, making sure that the experience again for the students is a desirable and enjoyable one to keep them coming back for more. All right, until next time, my friends, adios.